our topic, I got sort of that linguistic one was awesome. I'm so glad we had that angle on the conversation. Oh, but this one is so timely as well. Navigating through the generative AI landscape. I mean, who doesn't need help in that direction? So thank you, Azin, for joining us. Hello.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Lily.
Yeah, so excited for this. Let me pull up your slides and take it away.
Thank you so much. Actually, so just a quick question. Can I go to the next slide or? Perfect. I think I should be able to do it, right? Okay, sorry, just give me 1 sec while I'm moving this. Okay, yeah, so hello everybody, my name is Azin and I'm super excited to be here today. And yeah, thanks Lily and the team for the opportunity. So I will be talking about basically the generative AI landscape. It's a super fast evolving field and I'm just gonna share some thoughts with no means, sorry, it doesn't mean that this is perfect. So feel free to chime in and ask your questions at any point. Just a bit of sort of background about myself. My name is Azin. I, once upon a time, I was a grad student at University of Toronto, where I did my master's in the AI group. I graduated. I was planning and trying to start my own company. It was called Painyar. And and then I decided to join Georgian because this is, a perfect place for people who are interested in technology and business and, like have some sort of entrepreneurial spirit. And so, perfect, thank you. And so talking about the AI and ML opportunities and challenges, I'm pretty sure that you've heard LLMs probably 100 times just today. And you're hearing that probably 100 times every day, probably, for the last 6 months or last couple of years. So just for the sake of this talk, I'm just planning to, walk you through some of these opportunities, challenges, and basically share how we at Georgian look at these opportunities and, the framework we use for adopting these new technologies. It's basically like the internet era is transforming a lot of different fields and, working with a lot of companies and having the opportunity to work with all of our portfolio companies. We just wanted to, so the purpose is just to share some of our learnings with you today. So again, generative AI, I'm pretty sure you all have seen a lot of these things. We saw the release of ChatGPT. A lot of things has been going on. Copilot, demo of Copilot by Microsoft, Cerebras open sourcing their large models, Anthropic raising gigantic rounds of funding. Google Palm was released, and just a few days ago, a new AI startup focusing on building large language models raised the biggest seed round in the whole history of generative AI for 113 million, I believe. So generative AI is clearly getting a lot of attention. I mean, it's transforming the world, so it's sort of, it's not surprising that it's getting a lot of attention from investors, from technical folks, from all sorts of different personas and different groups and in our society. So yeah, the field is moving so fast, and there are a lot of models that are being released every day. This is just a view, of some of these models based on their category and class. So we have the transformer models, you see the GPT type models, and so on and so forth. So these models, I would say the differences mainly come in terms of the model size. We had BERT, which was 340 million, and now we have GPT-3 and 4, which are based on these 170 billion parameter models. We have architecture, differences in architectures. We have differences in training data. There are differences in their pre-training objective, and some of them are task agnostic, some of them are task specific, and then there are also differences in the ethical parts. Some models, like models from Anthropic, are trained being really focused on, the triple H, harmless, honest, and helpful, whereas the other models are maybe trained not, that accurately on, or not being focused that much on the ethical aspects. So I think a couple of questions that we have faced, and our companies basically are asking themselves of like, which of these models is appropriate for your own use case in terms of data cost, ethics, and the performance, and how can these models be tailored for specific use cases? Because using off-the-shelf models is pretty easy, but easy tasks or easy problems don't give you competitive edge. So as a company, if you wanted to keep your competitive advantage and in this ever evolving field, basically, how can you do that? And so I need to answer the first question. There are a lot of benchmarks and leaderboards. So this is by the Stanford University. It's pretty popular now. Helm leaderboard. It evaluates the model across 42 different tasks, 36 models, and 57 metrics. So it gives you a pretty good idea. And then there are also new leaderboards coming up every day. So like Hugging Face. This is relatively more recent. So they have this leaderboard that sort of evaluates, automatically evaluates different models that are available on the Hugging Face hub. They have LLM benchmarks. They also have human and GPT evaluations, basically evaluating chatbots and the most recent models based on human responses and GPT evaluation metrics. And so, you can sort of get a sense of which models you would like to use or where you wanted to start. And in terms of the second question, customizing your solution, there are a lot of different approaches that are being discussed in the research community and industry now. They start from fine-tuning, sort of an approach that has been around for many years. You can either fine-tune input output, the whole, your whole model, or do instruction tuning, which is relatively more recent. Since the release of GPT-3, I would say probably even before that, GPT-2, GPT-3, a lot of people realized that GPT-type models are great few-shot learners. And I think there was a paper by OpenAI in 2022 that sort of shared a lot of interesting insight and results that basically showed that GPT-3 can get to a great performance with just having a few examples. And so after that, this new era of prompt engineering and prompt optimization has started. Initially people were just manually designing prompts and coming up with handcrafted prompts. But over time, like any other researcher, it sort of evolved into this prompt optimization field, where the idea is basically that instead of manually designing prompt, you can, we can come up with algorithms and approaches that automatically design those prompts. So those prompts we can either limit them and constrain them to the vocabulary, to the basically words in our vocabulary and the language, so that they're sort of interpretable by humans, or you can take them to the next level and treat them as tunable parameters. So in that case, which is basically continuous or soft prompt optimization methods, we may end up with prompts that are totally, not interpretable by humans and are just like basically a random string of anything. But they are shown to be very effective in terms of performance, and so are sort of, an alternative for fine-tuning for extremely large models. And then the last approach, which came more or less, which became really popular recently after the release of ChatGPT, I would say, is reinforcement learning with human feedback. It's a popular approach and very effective approach for fine-tuning chatbot agents. You can basically collect a lot of feedback from your customers and end users and use that feedback to basically fine-tune your base model with to sort of align it more, make it more aligned with human values and human feedback that you have. And it got a lot, it's getting a lot of attention from the research community, and it's a very effective approach, very basically. So the next question is that having access and being aware of all of these customization methods, which one is the most appropriate approach to address your problem, taking into consideration factors like cost, business requirements, data volume, and your basically privacy and ethical concerns? And there are a lot of platforms that help you to sort of implement these. Most of the main players like OpenAI, Cohere, NVIDIA have fine-tuning, for example, capabilities available on their playground. So the next question is that which one of these platforms you should really use, and which one are basically suitable for your problem, which depends a lot on, again, your problem, the requirement you have, and the constraints. And so the other part is that, like over time, we're just seeing the size of these models increasing, and the models are just becoming larger and larger, which is creating new sets of problems. So, if you are planning to productionize a BERT model, you're potentially talking about a model with like a couple of 100 million parameters. So you can, it's not so hard these days to just create a version of that model, fine tune it, save a copy on your local machine or on your server, and sort of serve it. But if you're talking about a model with potentially few like few 100 billion parameters, or even sometimes trillion parameters, literally basically touching the model in terms of adjusting the weight, serving it, creating a copy, like that's not something really feasible, just because we're talking about a huge memory footprint, and the cost doesn't make sense in terms of the cost to do that. So that's why a lot of, we're sort of hearing a new term called LLM ops, which is basically ML ops for large language models. It's not very different from ML ops. A lot of people say that, and I agree with that. But it's sort of basically, adjusting or extending some of these platforms to work well with these extremely large models. And so there are platforms that are no-code and low-code platforms that sort of allow different types of users to play around with these models. There are code-first platforms, and there are other tools and frameworks to, that would allow people to automate different part of the process. Like, for example, LangChain. It's pretty famous these days, I believe. Like, you can use it for chaining, for creating agents, and all sorts of things. Again, a lot of tools at your hand. Which ones to use and which ones not to use really depends, again, on the problem you have and your requirement, the business requirement, and other types of things, other types of criteria. And yeah, the other part that I wanted to highlight is the responsible AI part. Like, I think a lot of companies are now more aware and more careful about the ethical aspects of using large language models, especially the ones that directly work with end users and maybe more B2C companies. So this is a plot by Anthropic that basically shows how you can make chatbots more helpful and honest and basically harmless by fine-tuning them on human feedback and certain types of data. So I guess one question that is important for companies and different, basically stakeholders in this space to answer is that what is the broader societal impact of your solution? Are there potential negative consequences? And if so, what guidelines can be established to mitigate them? And we're seeing a lot of activities going on in the field, from popular figures like, I don't know, Jeffrey Hinton, to all the other figures, and all, literally everyone. And I think this is also quite important to sort of think about the societal impact of whatever, basically your work, and how you can mitigate all of those issues. And that can give you a big competitive advantage. I think a good example of that is the case of Anthropic. Like, they are basically having a good competitive, they're keeping their competitive advantage by keeping a focus on the responsible side and the ethical side, which again is very important. And so the other area that I wanted to focus on is multimodal AI versus unimodal AI. GPT-4 was released. That The vision modality is not accessible publicly yet, but I think once it becomes accessible, it's going to bring new capabilities, and it's going to basically start a new wave of transformation, because you can do all sorts of visual language tasks easily, like VQA, analyze images, or generate things from generating textual prompt from images. Basically a lot of new capabilities would come to the surface, and that's going to be a sort of I would say a new era again. So the question is, understanding the current state and limitations of multimodal, what new applications can be unlocked by multimodal, and can any of these impact your work or your business, basically? And if so, I think it's pretty important to stay on top of it and think, sort of, try to be sort of think ahead of time. And moving to the last piece, again, low-code, no-code platforms. We're seeing a lot of them. There a lot of these platforms have been around for years, like Teapot, Autogluon, and there are new platforms that are coming and emerging, like Search AI, Mosaic ML. I would say it's really important to sort of know which one of these platforms can give you a boost and sort of make your work more efficient, more effective. So I guess the other aspect to this is that your competitors probably are using some of these platforms, and if they are getting a boost, you probably wanted to keep up with the work they're doing. And so I think the two important questions here to ask is, which of these platforms are suitable for use case, and which ones are good enough or mature enough for you to use? And so, having said all of that, I think the way to sort of adapt and leverage the potentials of generative AI at the end really depends on the opportunities you have. And so when you think about the opportunities, you can think about them in two different groups: pain relievers and gain creators. So pain relievers, basically the question is, how can we solve problems, reduce risk, or reduce negative emotions for our customers or our team? And a good example of this, example that I really like is, this product is so overwhelming and there is too much documentation. I don't understand how to use it and can't find the time to learn. So for example, if your customers are being overwhelmed with the amount of information they have to sort of juggle to find the answer for their question, then a potential generative AI solution can be creating an interface or documentation, an interface on a Gen AI agent that helps with the with basically finding the right info. And so the other category, gain creator, is basically how can we enhance our values, surprise or delight, or increase happiness for our customers. And a good example for this is, if I find it so hard to be creative on the spot, so basically you can use generative AI to increase the creativity and create a great marketing code, for example. So there are definitely a lot of different categories, but these are the two buckets that you can think in high level. And coming to my last slide, this is what I wanted to recommend basically at the end. When you think about these types of opportunities, more specific generative AI, we really recommend going with this, framework of crawl, walk, run. Do not try to add everything at once. Try to have many fast iterations, fail quickly, learn quickly. And then what we basically recommend to all of our companies, and this is based on working with many of them, is to basically start very simple and impactful, like start by just crawling, do fuchsia learning, prompt engineering, prompt tuning. Do not try to go after like fine tuning at first. Once you figured out, or once you could create a baseline, simple baseline with just the basic, these basic approaches, which can probably give you some results, then try to go after walking and then running. So walking can be, using anything from chaining agents, fine-tuning models, and then taking it to the next level. You can try to, once you really, once you have a really solid foundation, you can try to go after training foundation model for yourself based on your own proprietary data, or distilling models for efficiency and techniques like that. Yeah, and this is basically our approach when it comes to adopting. And yeah, last point, we have open positions. We also have a technical group called Transfer Learning. If you are interested to stay close to our work and what we do, feel free to apply for any of these things. And yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, we got a speedy get to our next speaker, but thank you so much for joining us.
No worries.
And
Thanks.
make sure to check in the chat as well.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Yeah, of course. So long.